Welcome to Stoughton Spotlight. I'm your host, Jeffrey Pickette. We're continuing our Conversations with the Candidates series, where I'll be interviewing the residents running for the contested races in this April's town election. On this episode, I'm joined by current selectman Joe Mokrisky, but he'll be running for Town Moderator this April. So we'll be discussing that over the course of the next half hour with Joe, why you're making the jump from selectman to moderator, and a lot of other issues around the town. So Joe, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for the invitation. Appreciate it.
So we'll start off right from the top. The choice for not pursuing another term on the Board of Selectmen. You are about to complete your 5th term on the board, 15 years on and off since '92. But you're looking to become the next town moderator. So talk about that transition a little bit and what led to that move.
Well, it's not a decision that was made lightly, but it was made 100% for personal reasons. My youngest son was honored to be accepted as a candidate for the police department, who is now in the police academy, and this has been his lifelong dream. And let's face it, we know politics in Stoughton. And my son and both my boys, my youngest one who will be a police officer, his career is more important to me than being on the Board of Selectmen. There will be, no matter what he does in his career with a father that's a selectman, if he were to take a promotional exam or do something great, you know what you're going to hear. Oh, of course, you know, your father's a selectman, of course, and I don't want that for him. So this was my decision, you know, to step aside from the Board of Selectmen, because that reason being the number one is that my family have always been more important than the position that I hold. And I don't want to have anything that reduces my ability to vote. With my son becoming a member of the police department, it does have some changes on what I'm able to vote on, and I'm not able to represent the taxpayers, and the voters, on every issue. There's the issues between the town manager, police chief, and union contracts that I would have to step aside. That's not fair to the people who put me in office. You need somebody that can do the job all the time. So that was my decision. I leave with a heavy heart, but I also leave with a great feeling of knowing that in 15 years that I've never changed. I'm not afraid to be unpopular when you need to be unpopular. Talk about the tough issues, make the tough decisions, and tell people how I truly feel. So it's been an honor to serve on the Board of Selectmen, and you never say never. What'll happen is who knows. But for those people that are out there saying, well, he's done, he's going away, he's all done. Well, I'm not going anywhere. I made a commitment to serve the community a long time ago, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. If people vote me to an office, then I would be more than honored to accept the responsibility of that office. And if it's not through office, it still will be through either the Community Events Committee that I revived in 2007, or it could be through the Historical Society, which I've been very active and, as you know, have the job of keeping up with the old fire truck. So there's other ways to serve your community. It's not all about public office. It's making a commitment to making your town a better place to live.
Sure, and so it doesn't sound like win or lose, you're not going far.
Oh, if those people are out there in the sidelines waiting to see me go away, just give up now.
But talk about your choice to run for moderator and what you feel you can bring to that position.
Very simple. I want to start out by saying that I have the most respect for Howie Hansen. Howie Hansen has been, dedicated to this community for a lot of years. He loves his town. He puts his money where his mouth is. Times are changing. Town meeting could be run, in my opinion, more efficiently. And more information needs to come to town meeting and the town meeting representatives. One thing I've been known through my years on the Board of Selectmen is that people say I control debates. Well, that comes with experience when you control debates and you bring information that nobody else does, because that as well comes with experience. I believe that town meeting needs to adapt to those times, and that's where I think we have not done it. Sometimes you have to run a strong meeting and make sure information is brought up. In some cases, you need to drag it out of people so that the town meeting representatives get a balanced debate, and that you pick on both sides of the issue, whether it be pro or con, to make sure that the issue itself gets the debate that it needs so people can make an informed decision. There have been many times at town meeting where people will yell people down. There are people that get up a lot more than others, without a doubt. But, valid questions need to come to the floor of town meeting. I've heard for a long time that we need to change town meeting to a different form of government, maybe a mayor and a council, and or different. And I've said right along that is hearing those things, I couldn't disagree with anyone that wants to change our form of government. What we've got to do is make our form of government work better. We're seeing in some cases a very dangerous trend in the country right now, as well as I've told people that anyone that truly knows Stoughton politics, we've been ahead of the game of what's going on now about voicing opinion and having, hardcore conversations. But I feel that there's a lot of information that town meeting representatives, because they are the last line of defense for the taxpayers. Board of Selectmen, town managers are the executive level. And I've always said to remind some people that don't know is that we are the legislative body through town meeting. And that has gone on longer than it needs to go on. The debates have not been controlled in some cases. People are walking away from town meeting, not joining town meeting. In the last few years, we've had, worst numbers ever of people running for town meeting. They come in, and I've heard this from people throughout my years, and most recently, more of it when I threw my name out for moderator. And I've had people that were dedicated town meeting representatives that said, if you get elected, I'll come back.
Well, how do you recruit?
You've got to it's easy. You make people want to be a part of town meeting, but who wants to be a part of a process that takes 6 and 7 nights, and you work until 10 o'clock, and the same people get up and bring up the same questions or bring their political agenda to the floor, when town department heads and town leaders are not prepared for the debate at town meeting, so town meeting representatives can't make a decision, or it becomes a cluster. There's no driven agenda to get the information across. So what we've got to do is change the whole process of town meeting. We need to do better preparation for town meeting and make sure that more information is available for town meeting representatives.
Now, what's a better way to prepare? Because there are hearings for all of the articles through either the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, municipal regs, other boards that may hear. They're seldomly attended by town meeting reps. So how do you get more people to kind of be aware of what's going on before that first night?
Okay, well this is where I guess I'll differ with some people. A very strong difference on this is that I don't think town meeting representatives need to be at all the public hearings. They have to be done legally so that the process is open and everybody can see it. But a lot of those processes are controlled by the people inside. They come in, they present their information. The public hearing doesn't give you the opportunity to really go at them and to get the information. So here's the difference of what I'm going to do. If I'm elected moderator this year, my next day after I'm sworn in, I will set up a meeting with all town department heads that have articles coming before town meeting. And we're going to have a plan. We're going to map it out. We're going to know who is going to speak on this issue. Where is the backup? Where's the presentation? Who's going to make the presentation? If an article is not ready to be presented, I'll move it to the end of the agenda and give them the opportunity to do their homework. Because the town meeting representatives, and this is what's plagued town meeting for a lot of years, is I don't want to say dysfunctional, because it's not a dysfunctional process, but it's a dysfunctional method or turn of events, we'll say. Nothing stays on track. We go over here and there and there and there. The basis of it has to be A, B, C, D. Here's the article. Here's the recommendation of the subcommittee, FinCom, whoever. And this is, their recommendation. Now, for instance, the school superintendent is going to present the budget. And if an area that she can't have it, she'll have somebody that will answer that question with factual information. Not I think, because especially on the budget. If you don't know your budget and you can't answer the questions, well, that tells us right now that you don't know your budget. So we've never, and I want to say here that I'm not implying that the school department doesn't know their budget. If anything, they get their budget right to the nickel. They know what they need. They make a very good presentation. But for the process of town meeting, I want to meet with the superintendent, and I want her to map out her articles. When it comes to the fire department, okay, and we're talking about ambulance billing, is it going to be the fire chief or is it going to be the town manager? Is the town manager going to lead and then yield to the fire chief? That has to be done. And then after that, it comes down to strong leadership. And this is what I've been proven. I'm not afraid to get in and say what I've got to say and stop a meeting. Is that that's when it gets off track because people put their political agenda and they say the same, ask the same questions, or they don't like a particular department, they get up and try to criticize the management of the department. That's not our job as town meeting representatives. Our job is to make sure that the articles are represented, fairly, that a good debate is there, and most importantly, town meeting representatives will get the information they need. And then a good moderator is going to have a strong fist, and he's going to rule people out of order if they're not contributing to the issue at hand. And you've seen it yourself. There are people that get up and they just don't like this department. They think this one's spending too much money and it's personal. The good of the body is what is going to be at the forefront.
Now, town meeting in the last, let's say, the last 2 years, it's been meeting 4 nights. That's how long the spring annual town meeting has run. There's been special town meetings in the fall. Prior to that, it was running 8, 10 plus, maybe more. It was the process, you could say, was dragging on. It's down to 4 nights now. Is that an acceptable number of nights? Is there a magic number of nights that, because a lot of other towns still can do this in 1 to 2 nights. So
right.
I just would like to get your take on how long the town meeting process should take.
Years ago, in my earlier days, we were in and out of there in 3 nights. There's always been, historically, I don't know what it is, historically, some of the larger budgets take the least amount of time. We'll gavel through a third of the budget with about a 10-minute talk, and then we'll talk 7 hours about pencils and how much we spend on paper. So you can't dictate how the conversation goes. But the whole idea is, if I had my way, I'd like to see us be in and out of there in 2 nights.
Oh, how do you do that?
Yeah. Well, again, will we accomplish it? Who knows? But my goal is to get us out of town meeting as quick as humanly possible with enough debate and formal structure to the process. I think we could shave a night off just when we stop arguing about an issue where we had a town department that said we've never presented that information to town meeting, when all my years I know was BS, because we had been doing it. Maybe we don't do it now that you're here, but we did. And if town meeting wants it, that's what they're going to get. So we'll take that 15, 20-minute delay in doing business, and we'll eliminate that. So who knows, if we can get out of there in 1 night. I don't know if that's possible in Stoughton. I would tend to think it's not. But again, picking a number, you can't do it. All we'd like to be able to do is say, okay, well, we got this down to 3 nights. Let's see if we can get it down to 2 nights. But I think if we sit down, and the biggest problem has been is that town meeting members are asking questions that should have been provided to them through department head. The FinCom report is a great report. It gives a background, but I'd like to see department heads, or we'll say the 2 entities of government, come up and sit down and make a statement at the beginning of town meeting and said, this is what you will see in our budget, and explain increases. Well, these were contractual. This was a result of, a collective bargaining.
So you're saying like an information session, more or less.
Well, you can do that at the, getting ready for town meeting. You could do it the night of. We can do it at the organizational, but I think it would be better because not everybody attends organizational town meeting. So if they're not there, I would probably want to have a presentation by each, town manager and the superintendent of schools. Not a long hour presentation, but it allows town meeting reps to know what we're getting into. These are the things you're going to hear, and we'll have more information. We'll call on our individual department heads if the conversation needs it. So that now we set the roadmap up. We know who's going to talk. If we have a little glitch and somebody's asking a question about, well, how much have we spent in the last 10 years on fuel oil, we're going to be able to answer that question. The town manager refers to the auditor, and he can bring that information up. Because what happens a lot of times in this process, as you know, is that people will ask questions you can't anticipate. But again, if they're more prepared and there's a structure, even for the department, for the 2 ends of Pearl Street, the superintendent of schools and the town manager, is that I would want to bring that information out of them. I will call on them. I won't recognize them. I'll call on them, to clarify the issue so that it doesn't start taking away from people's time. Because there are sometimes we've gone in and we've done, 4 articles in a whole night? That's crazy. So if they're complex articles, maybe we need to bring somebody else in that's more, more experienced in that. We're going to have a lot of issues as we build the new high school. Maybe it's going to be needed to have one of the developers come in with the chair of the building committee and recognize that person so they're getting real good data. So, we're going to have to try a lot of things. One of my goals would be to establish a town meeting website so that we can put more documents on that, specifically for town meeting representatives. There will be an opportunity to put people's at least telephone number or email addresses so that you can look in to see who your town meeting reps are. Now, we can do that through Town Hall now, through the town's website, but we don't have a person that really keeps up and maintains our town website. It's very user-unfriendly. It doesn't provide a lot of information. I want to have the town meeting report on there, the budget on there. There's a company that I've worked with and done a lot of research on where we can put benchmarking. So town meeting representatives can go into this system online and they can look at the school budget for towns that are comparable to Stoughton. So now they could format their questions and say, well, listen, I'm just picking a name. We're pretty close to Stoneham. We would say, well, in Stoneham, they've got the same square miles, same population, and they're spending X amount on schools. Well, this app and this website that we will be a part of, if I'm elected moderator, is going to allow you to look at area towns and see how much they spend per pupil for the budget, your police and fire. I mean, it would solve one of the issues now that we're dealing with, as you know, with the manning of our second ambulance. And Chief Mike Larissy, when he came in, took that on, and he's been increasing his manpower now, and we've already made significant impact on getting some of that money back into the town. There was one statement that was made in a media publication that said, we've saved money. We haven't saved money. If anything, we've spent more money to accomplish this goal, but the money we bring back in is greater than what we're spending, so we're not impacting the budget. And then on top of that, we're improving the safety of our community by having 2 ambulances available. And biggest thing, we're not impacting other communities like we were several months ago. I mean, we were using Sharon, Canton, Randolph, Avon's ambulance. Avon is a call fire department. They only have a couple people on staff. When we take their ambulance and use a call because we're not properly managing ours, we affect the ability of them to respond to their residents. That's not the way to run municipal government. And this is what I've had a problem with the management of our town, is that I've always heard over and over and over is that the selectmen are not supposed to be a part of the everyday running of town government. But when you see these problems and you represent the citizens, what are you supposed to do? You ask questions. So I don't want to...
You have a different role as moderator, though, because it sounds like you're still very much concerned with the day-to-day, what's going on in Stoughton.
But see, here's the thing, though, is when we are town meeting, we need to be able to answer those questions as town meeting. That's happening at the executive level. So what I want town meeting representatives to know, and they should have the right to know, is that are we budgeted properly? Are we getting the job done? Because we've been voting these budgets at town meeting and going over this information for years, and this process has taken years to evolve to be a problem. So then town meeting representatives can, if somebody decided they want to move and increase the budget, they're going to be able to do it based on facts. Those facts don't make it to the average town meeting representative. They are the most powerful people in the town. The legislative branch, they can, in one swoop of a vote, they can kill a department line item. But I want to see them have that same ability to step up to the plate and fund things that are needed, but through a good presentation. I want the fire chief, when he comes and asks for new men in the fire department, I want him to have factual data available to the town meeting representative so they can look at it and say, we need to do this, or I'm not doing it for these reasons. I want it to be based on 100% facts. Because if we don't have that information, we're just shooting birds out of a sky with the shotgun instead of a laser.
Yeah.
So
on a previous program, you were on Community Forum a little while ago, and you mentioned that you would be able to step right in on day one.
Yes.
And so I want to bring up the experience level. And while you obviously haven't been town moderator, you certainly have plenty of experience in town government, and the importance you place on experience in this particular position of being town moderator.
Well, again, and I'm not going to, because everybody has their own style of doing, so I'm not going to criticize anyone, but The fact is, I just went into the reasons why I'm running. And I have the ability, the knowledge, I have the experience, and I have the leadership qualities to be able to say, I'm not going to let it go that road. People will have their opportunity to put me back into the role of moderator if they choose or not. And it'll be based on the accomplishments we make together. I'm just asking residents for the one opportunity is that I've been involved with the town since 1986. I've been 18 years as an elected official, including my years on the Redevelopment Authority. 18 years, I've learned a lot. I've interacted more, and I think being a selectman adds to that because I see how the meetings go behind the scenes. The moderator's position is part-time compared to the time it takes to be a selectman. You know, you're really required, unless we have a special town meeting. Well, the articles are all drafted by somebody else. The moderator doesn't do that. They're voted by the selectmen, and then it goes through the process. The only thing that the moderator's position really does to affect them is the appointments on the Finance Committee to make sure that those positions are balanced so that, again, finances of the town are looked at based on the needs of the department and not because somebody likes this department better than that department, you know, which we get in Stoughton as well. So I've gone through this. I've seen how town meeting ran years ago, and even with the current moderator, but it's changed. And you have to change with the times, you know, to make the process work. You know, we can't run town meeting the way we did in 1986. It's a different time. And I've had people criticize me before, I've been here too long and all these things, and I said, well, you let the voters make that decision. What I have been consistent in is fighting for the residents of this town. I'm not afraid to go, you know, and get dirty with people if they want to get dirty. I don't like that, but I want information. I want the residents to know what's going on. I want this town to run efficiently. I want people to communicate, and I've had a huge problem with communication in this town in the last 3 years, as you've seen and has been reported many times. There's more to transparency than coming up and saying, I'm for transparency. It's creating the process to provide the transparency. I've been steadfast in my commitment to do that. That dates back into the early 90s when we had to discipline a town manager for doing a behind-the-scenes investigation on a fire chief that he tried to hide. You know, with all that the way it is, I want to use that experience to bring, when I sit down and I gavel town meeting to order, that we're producing and that everybody in the room will have a fair shake. We're not going to play politics. We're not going to get in there and take political swipes at other people. You know, and if articles are not ready to be heard when everybody in that room can make an informed decision, the article is going to get moved to the rear. You know, and if not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn town meeting without taking action on these articles. Bring it back at the next annual. Because if we don't do that, we're going to continue to have this kind of, you know, going off in 15 different directions when we get to town meeting. It's got to be structured.
Now, something else you brought up on the community forum program was you mentioned attendance, and you mentioned, you were quite frank. You said that, look, there was one year where I wasn't able to make the sessions. I believe that was 2013. If that comes up in, you know, throughout this campaign process, what's your response to concern with attendance? You know, when you were a town meeting rep, you weren't, you know, at the last set of town meetings that you were a representative for.
My job, I've always been self-employed, Jeff, okay? And the type of business I run is I sign contracts with people for consulting for transportation. As that company changes, I need to mold with that. And one of the times that 2013 was a lot of it, is that the times that we were going through town meeting and don't forget too, a lot of times I haven't been a town meeting representative because I was on the Board of Selectmen. I don't need to be a town meeting representative. I always wanted to give the opportunity to somebody else to serve because I'll have my voice heard at town meeting. But my audits took place during town meeting time, you know, and that is a part that I don't do anymore. I now have an office, as a lot of people know, I have an office in Stoughton. I'm in town a lot more, and I wouldn't have made the jump into this if I had known, you know, that I couldn't do the job. Now, there are some people that's all they're talking about. And what I say to them is, thank you. Because if that's the best you could find as to why I shouldn't be moderator, is that I couldn't make some meetings or meetings of the Board of Selectmen, you know, I probably, you know, missed more meetings than these people have attended in their whole lifetime. So, I mean, over 18 years, if I only missed a few, it's not a good excuse. You always try to be 100%, but I still have to do a job. And I will get this job done as moderator, and I will show people a huge difference, and I will show them leadership, and I'll show them results.
In the last couple minutes, just kind of backing up globally here, the Board of Selectmen, there's 2 seats up, and there's 6 people running for those 2 seats. Moderator, there's, as you know, 3 running for a single seat, and that position hasn't been contested for years. Why do you think there was more of an interest in people getting involved in the process of town government and just more competition this year for, I mean, when you ran for the selectmen 3 years ago, just for point of reference, you were one of 3 candidates running for 2 seats. So what do you think's changed? What's brought more people willing to be part of this process?
The lack of moving forward, the lack of communication, the lack of alleged backroom deals, the alleged, and some of them I'm going to say, and I point to this book right here that's here is the lack of confidence in town government. This book here shows town officials, that had ordered people not to talk to the police department, and nothing was done of it. There was a gentleman who had charges taken out on him. All right? Names aren't important. People know who I'm talking about. That breeds distrust in government. This goes back to, if you remember, there was a statement asked in this exact location of a candidate that was running for office one time, and it was less than genuine, we'll say. I wouldn't say a lie, but it was sure less than genuine, because about 3 to 4 days later, we found out that the statement that the person made was not true. It's the lack of trust in government. When we have people being told don't talk to the police, when we have a department head has charges taken out on them, and then some people think it's okay because there was an official conviction, but the court said the Commonwealth proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt. That breeds people that run with agendas that some members of the Board of Selectmen have had, because they look at it as all-out war against the other side.
So we're just about to run out of time. I want to give you 20 seconds to just a final thought, speaking to the voters. Again, just 20 seconds.
It's 20 seconds, and where's the clock? It's very simple, though. We could talk for hours about how Stoughton is run, how Stoughton has matured, the successes of the town. I believe that we have a lot of successes. There are a lot of good people that run. I ask that they run for the right reasons, not political reasons, but to come outside their home and make a difference in the community. I have shown consistent leadership, whether you agree with me a lot or not. We have done some great things in town. I have done the job. I have worked for the good of the town, tried to keep our reputation intact, and delivered results for the residents of the town by doing the hard work and never, ever forgetting the trust that you, the voters, have put in me. I've just asked for one more chance for 1 year as moderator. If I can't show you results in my first year, I wouldn't expect you to vote for me again. So with that, I would thank you for this opportunity, Jeff.
Yes, Joe, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for tuning in. This has been Stoughton Spotlight, our Conversations with the Candidates series, and you've just watched a half hour with Joe Mokrisky, who is running for Town Moderator. So thanks again for tuning in. Remember to vote in the town election, and we will see you next time on Stoughton Spotlight.